Good morning, Dennis.
Good morning, Ian. How are you?
Good, mate. Look, we're live. I always like to start these things with a little bit of an origin story. I mean, the whole idea is to inspire more people to take up martial arts or make more people not give up martial arts. So can you just give us a little bit of a story about how you started martial arts and how you ended up head coach of Australian Combat Sports Academy down in Melbourne?
Okay, well, it's a bit of a long story, but I'll go back to the beginning. So I started off with traditional karate back in Ireland when I was I think I was like 14 years old, and I'd never been interested in too many other sports before then. But yeah, once I started doing karate, it was like it pretty much took over my life. And obviously, I was a big fan of all the movies, Jean-Claude Van Damme and all that kind of stuff. So, and then over probably a few years after that, or probably not long after that, actually, I saw the very first UFC, and that kind of got me interested in like the grappling and mixed martial arts sort of side of it. But there was nothing like that really around back then. So basically, I just used to get me and my brothers to have like no rules fights at the back of our house to put our skills to the test. And then over the years, then I gradually I moved to London when I was 18 years old to go to university, and over there was like a lot more kind of variety of martial arts. So that's started doing Muay Thai over there. I did the traditional Japanese jiu-jitsu, and then probably a few years, probably like a year or so after that, that's when one of the first ever MMA clubs in Europe opened its doors, which was Pancrase, which was taught by a French guy called Fred Rado, who was like I consider like my original MMA instructor. So I think I might have been there actually for their very first class, and I was still only like 19 years old, and it was always, big. Basically, no one really knew what MMA was, so it just attracted a lot of like, bouncers and security guys and stuff. But started training there, and then gradually kind of worked my way into Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and competing and fighting in MMA, and had quite a few amateur fights. Then worked my way into pro fights. I say pro fights, but I didn't really make any money from them, and it wasn't like a career path, but it was just under pro rules, so you could elbow each other to the head. And then then eventually met my wife, moved to Australia, had a few more fights over here, but that was kind of like the tail end of my career. And then gradually then kind of moved into full-time coaching, and then we opened the gym, which started off as Team Nemesis, and eventually then we kind of rebranded it the last couple of years as Australian Combat Sports Academy, and then it's grown quite a lot since then. So that's a rough summary of it all.
Yeah, and so you've floated in and out then of a whole bunch of different styles of martial arts, which is becoming more and more rare now, because people kind of quicker to go to the things that are extremely useful, because we know from watching the UFC on the weekend and listening to guys like Rogan and the other commentators that they know that boxing and Thai boxing is useful. They want to go to a karate school that does MMA and jiu-jitsu as well at the same time. So the martial arts landscape has definitely changed, and you've had the opportunity to float in and out of a bunch of different martial arts clubs. What would be your advice to students looking to take up martial arts now in the current landscape that we have?
Well, I'd say that it's an interesting question, actually, because it's a good point that now it's not much easier to sort of pick, what works. But like, just to give a bit of context, like when I first started doing my MMA training, that was like 1990 I think 1998, 99. So it's interesting because back then people still didn't really know what worked. So the first few UFCs, jiu-jitsu worked. And that was the only thing that really was effective. And then after that, wrestling was working. And then after that, some strikers like Bas Rutten kind of came along. And then so people were changing their minds every couple of, maybe every year about what was effective. And basically, like, by that stage, if you only did jiu-jitsu, then that would be a waste of time. So there was more like different opinions about what was really going to work in a fight and what wasn't going to work. And it was kind of changing all the time. So I think it was sort of an interesting time because you were training, but you didn't really, you were never really sure if what you were doing was going to work or not. Whereas I think nowadays, there's like a clear blueprint of if you want to be successful in MMA, you have to do wrestling, jiu-jitsu, and some kind of striking. And that basically, if you follow that blueprint, you won't really go far wrong. Whereas back in those days, it was a lot. There was a lot more kind of guesswork involved in it. But I'd say, going back to your question about what would I advise someone, I'd say probably one of the things that people, one of the things that people sort of forget about is, no matter how good, so say for example there could be a club or like a gym in your town or in your city that's got everything, it's got the wrestling, it's got the boxing, whatever, and if you listen to Joe Rogan, you go, yeah, this is where I need to go. But if you don't actually enjoy it, if you turn up to train there and the people have got a bad attitude, or maybe no one likes you or whatever, then you probably won't stick around. So it won't really matter how good the club is. So unless you can get into the habit of consistently going to it and training there, you're not really gonna get any benefit from it. So I think probably the key thing is you need to find a gym that you fit into and that you'll probably enjoy going to it. You might not enjoy it every night of the week, but you'll probably enjoy it enough that it'll become a habit and you'll keep training. So consistent training is probably going to be more important than just doing it a few times, but not really doing it consistently, if that makes sense.
Finding a place where you fit in is good, and also having the club meet your expectations about what you think martial arts is as well, because some people don't want real either. Like some people want to do kung fu katas, and some people want to do those things. MMA is kind of like a self-defense problem-solving tool. For me, it's what I would call the gold standard of martial arts, because you can test it the best. So, I do jiu-jitsu for martial arts purposes. I do, like Thai boxing for martial arts purposes, because I want to have the most usable skills. And if it's not real and authentic, then that doesn't suit my character. But some people want more spiritual, And I might not even be the coach. Like, I love philosophy, but I'm not going to be the guy that makes you meditate for 5 minutes post class.
Yeah. And I think as well, even that say with stuff like sports jiu-jitsu. So if your focus is actually you want to be able to defend yourself, and you might go to a really good club, but it's all basically sports jiu-jitsu techniques that are only going to work under those conditions, then no matter how good the club is, you might not really get much out of it. Whereas if you train somewhere that's more kind of in line with what you're looking for, then it's probably going to work out a lot better.
Yeah. You might spend an hour drilling octopus guard, whereas that kind of lesson to me, that's a nightmare to me. Like an hour of drilling, passing the lapel through someone's legs and then floating inside out, upside down, I'm just like, oh, can we roll in this already?
Yeah, and I mean all that stuff. Obviously, all that stuff is going to be really useful if you're someone that's really interested in competing at super high level, and then you go to a place where they're teaching you how to get out of headlocks, then that's going to be a waste of time as well. So yeah, I think you need to find the right environment that's gonna meet your needs.
Yeah, it's interesting because even the style of the way people train, like we do a short 15-20 minute lesson on a string of techniques in a position, like let's use like say half guard for example, and then we always roll in half guard.
Yeah,
like, the class will not finish until we do at least 10 minutes with our partners or a group rolling half guard so people can attempt to practice that skill live.
Yeah,
I just refuse to do it because it's like every time I do a seminar and I'd learn something really, really good, I was like, I couldn't wait to get to like a rolling part and
get trying it out on someone.
Yeah, I just want to try this thing live, like see where the gaps of my technique are or whether it works into my game like immediately. Like I want to stress test that thing immediately, and the sooner I stress test something, the sooner I can see what parts I need to drill better of it next time as well. Like I find that a really good learning process. So we do that. So once you've trained at a couple of different places, you'll know kind of like the style of classes that you enjoy. But definitely, you have to find people that you enjoy being around as well at the same time. So that's really good advice. Now, obviously, Melbourne shut down at the moment, and I don't want to take this to a negative way, but it always made me think during shutdown too, what I was going to be super, like, was it going to drag me from my path? Was I going to keep doing martial arts? Were we going to sell something online? And we ended up building a back end of stuff. I really, truly believe that people need martial arts. I feel like there's fighting in everybody's soul somewhere, and I feel like it's an important thing for the community for there to be martial arts. Now, you guys have gone online. Why is martial arts important to you, Dennis? And what do you get the most out of passing it on to other people?
Well, I think it's important to me because I think just because I've been doing it for so long. So as I said, I think I started in 1993. So it's been a lot. So, and I would say that I've been doing some form of training pretty much every day since then. So whether that's just like a little bit of bag work or shadow boxing, or like 4 hours of jiu-jitsu training and then Muay Thai after that. But I think I've been doing something almost every day. So it's always been a big part of my life. And then throughout the lockdown, I've still been pretty much doing that. Probably, if anything, I've probably been doing more because I've been doing my own kind of training, but then I've also been teaching online classes, but then spending a lot of time going back over notes and videos and making notes and stuff and planning, how I'm going to reorganize, my curriculum of what I teach for when we do open up again. So if anything, I've probably been doing more of it, but I think, why it's important to me to teach it. So I'd say 2 reasons. One of them is obviously the one everybody says, where it's good to see people develop. So there's a lot of people that have come to me, that have joined up at the gym, and they probably weren't really that interested in martial arts at the beginning. They just wanted a new activity to get them out of the house, and you can see that it's helped them. Then they've gone on to do other things with their life. So you can see the positive effects that it has on people. And I'd say the other reason is probably more selfish. It's just that I sort of find that I can improve my own skill and ability when I'm teaching other people. So I think you can you can only go so far training yourself, but then there's so many different skills and techniques and things that I sort of figure out how to do them, and then when I teach them to other people, it gives you, it gives you sort of feedback or verification of whether it's working or not. So teaching other people and then seeing them do the techniques properly, I think it makes me better as a teacher and as a coach. So that's one of the other reasons for why I pass it on to other people, I suppose.
Yeah, and now with this lockdown, all those people that were nervous about doing martial arts in front of everybody else, they could actually be like joining up online, secretly getting skills via Zoom.
Yeah,
so they don't rock up to class and embarrass themselves. So there's heaps of that going on. Well, now I think it's a really good idea.
Yeah, well, that's a good point actually as well, because that's even something that I've found. So, what I've kind of seen in the past. So this is especially something that you'll see in like a beginner's jiu-jitsu class. You don't really see it so much in striking, but with jiu-jitsu classes, people a lot of the movements are pretty unnatural. People have never really moved their legs or their body in that kind of way before. So if people are coming into as complete beginners, they're going to feel a little bit embarrassed. So even doing things like hip escapes up and down the mat, if you've never done it before and you've never done any kind of real sport or anything before, you're probably going to feel like a bit self-conscious, especially when there's 18 other people in the room that you think are all looking at you. So if that's your first experience of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and that usually is most people's first experience, then it can be a bit off-putting. And then especially then they go and maybe they get shown how to do like an arm lock from mount. They pair up with another person and they feel like they're doing it all wrong and they're putting their leg in the wrong place. And also they feel like they're slowing down their training partner. So they sort of feel like they're wasting everybody's time. But then when you do it, what we found is when people are doing online classes at home, so maybe they've got a dummy, or they've got like their their boyfriend or girlfriend or whatever, or maybe they've just got like a pillow and they're practicing it on the carpet. They feel like, I'm getting the hang of this. I'm not really slowing anybody down. No one's really looking at me because I've got the camera on my thing turned off. So we're actually finding that it's a lot more of it's a better sort of starting point or kind of pathway. And then I think when we do open up again, we're going to have a lot more people that are willing to actually jump in and do their first proper jiu-jitsu class than before. So that's like one of the positives that have come out of it.
We put a whole stuff online so people can actually jump in and go, oh, it's guard week, and they can jump in and see like a bunch of guard lessons. So they could be doing extra 1 to 3 minute lessons at home without having to search on YouTube. So we kind of improved our back end, which was really good. Like it was something that I'd wanted to do for a while, but you got to get over that. You get over that kind of like thing of putting that content out. That was real good. Now it's probably not going to look to end real soon. So how well have you guys been able to transition online at the moment? And has your real estate agents given you a decent amount of time off, or are the banks helping you, or have you received enough government grants to keep from going backwards?
Yeah, well, I mean, everything's still like all a little bit up in the air at the minute. So I think the next couple of weeks will have a big impact. But yeah, I mean, so far we've been doing, we've been getting good kind of support from the members who have all jumped in to do the online classes. And then in between, so we had like the first lockdown, then we opened up for a few weeks, or probably I think we were open up for about a month where we could do outdoor boot camps, and we had a lot of people come in, all the members, booking in to do outdoor boot camps. And then And then we were able to do, I think, one-on-one sessions as well for a while. And then for 2 weeks, we were allowed to do sessions inside the gym again, but they were basically, you couldn't do any partner work. So it was just like solo drills and stuff like that. But that went really well. And then obviously the last couple of weeks, we've been back to not being able to do anything apart from online classes. But yeah, I mean, it's tough, but and obviously you've seen our place as well, so it's like there's a lot of bills to pay, but we're not going to give up easily. I'll put it that way. We're going to keep trying until like they have to kick us out, pretty much, because you don't come this far and then just give up. So we'll keep going until the bitter end.
Yeah, and like if people still have their jobs, like my advice to them would be to keep training with you guys online, because like part of the whole idea of being a martial artist, whether you're a Thai boxer, a jiu-jitsu fighter, or an MMA guy, is you find a way to not give up.
Yeah.
So you do those classes and train the best as you can, just in case things go to shit and you need martial arts, yeah. And right now, I got depressed just from sitting at home for the first 4 to 8 weeks up here when we were shut down, and I knew that I had to train every day, because even just doing something like a short 300 rep bodyweight workout had me feeling better, like I'd done something that day. So, I mean, we can either sit at home and complain, or you can get off your ass and stay part of something, So I really do recommend anybody down in Melbourne that's like going stir crazy, sign up to Dennis's program or Philip's program and get amongst it and get off your ass and give it a go and see if it makes you feel good, because it's like doing karate in the garage, like just it'll be fun.
Well, the only thing that we've been trying to stress to our members as well is that it's like, myself and Phil we've been doing heaps of work, researching better teaching methods and researching techniques and stuff. So the stuff that we're teaching, the people who are doing the class are doing the online classes, they're going to benefit from it, because for one thing, we can kind of put more information into these online classes than we can, if you're teaching a room and there's 30 students in it, it's hard to speak to each person individually. But if you're doing it online, you can actually these are the key points. There's 5 things you need to do with this arm. There's these are the things you have to look out for, or whatever. So if you're doing the classes, you're going to pick up a lot of information, so that when you do return to training, you're going to be much better than what you were. So the alternative to that is you don't do any training and you sit around waiting for some kind of miracle that's suddenly going to bring the coronavirus to an end, or just complain about it. But you can either be proactive and make the most of the situation, and then you'll be better when it's over, or you can do nothing. So that's the point that we try to stress to people. Like, it's do these classes, it's obviously it's not ideal. It's going to be better if we were all allowed to train, but the reality is that we aren't, and we probably won't be for a little while. So make the best of the bad situation, and then when it's over, you're going to benefit from it.
Yeah, 100%. It's a really important lesson for people to learn, and I can understand people's stress and everything else about the whole situation, but there's always a workaround. And I think Australians in the past have been quite resilient. It just might take time to kickstart that Australian toughness and resilience back in, seeing we've had so many decades of having life so good,
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate your time this morning.
No problem.
Dennis. Make sure you jump on this and put a link to your online program. So if anyone in Melbourne sees it and wants to train online, or anybody who's been thinking about joining a martial arts club somewhere else in the country and is nervous about face-to-face classes, then try one of these online programs for a couple of weeks or a couple of months. And then when you're ready, go to your club already well armed and well trained, and that'll ease some of the anxiety about turning up to your new team.
Yeah, I think definitely that's a good idea, because I think, obviously I've been a little bit aware of it, but probably, jiu-jitsu has got quite a high drop-off rate, and a lot of people who do their first ever class, they probably don't come back again, or even they might not even turn up for the first class because the idea is too off-putting. So probably online training like this is a good way to get started, and then build it up from there.
Yeah, it's excellent, and I reckon jiu-jitsu has a big drop-off rate because it's difficult too, right? You don't get all the benefits of jiu-jitsu without the suffering, and I've said that time and time again about martial arts. Turn up with an open mind, but be prepared to be humbled. It's difficult to learn, it's tough. But all that suffering comes with a huge amount of benefits later on if you guys can get through that. But definitely for those people that are finding it difficult to hook in or went in weren't too sure, join up to Dennis's program. It'll be super good for you.
Okay.
Thanks, Dennis.
All right, no problem. And thanks for this.